Good morning, everyone. It's great to see all of you. Thanks for being here. We will begin our service with the ringing of the kansho, which signifies the start of the service. Please remain quiet. Thank you. Please rise for meditation. Please remain standing. Next is the Vandana Ti-Sarana, which is located in your brown service book on page 165. And please recite both the Pali and the English languages of this chant.
Waimanalo.
Please be seated. So please turn to the sheet that was provided to you upon entry, Gassho with Amida.
Recite Amida's name with deep joy and gratitude. I Gassho with Amida, trees and grasses and flowers, all grow in great compassion. This light shines throughout the world. I Gassho with Amida. Flowers bloom and flowers fall. From the sea sprout new flowers. This is the truth unchanging. I Gassho with Amida. Springtime brings the happy birds. Their songs all praise Amida. I join them in Nembutsu. I Gassho with Amida. When I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. Buddha's voice, my voice are one. I Gassho with Amida. When I'm lonely, I recite Namo Amida Butsu. Then I feel great compassion. I Gassho with Amida. Nembutsu in work and play. Every day with Amida. Every moment filled with light. I Gassho with Amida. Remember the golden chain. Kindness to all living things. I will follow this teaching. I Gassho with Amida. In the clear bright morning sun, in the fading light of day, in the silence of the night, I Gassho with Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. I live in great compassion. This great power guides my life. I Gassho with Amida. Namo Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. Namanda, 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 namanda.
Please rise and turn to your red service book, page 2, for the recitation of Homages. Hard it is to be born into human life. Now we are living in it. Difficult it is to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear them. If we do not gain emancipation in this present life, we may not be free from ill-faring in the ocean of births and deaths for kalpas. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures. We go to the Buddha for guidance.
May we always walk in a way that leads to enlightenment. We go to the Dharma for guidance. May we be submerged in the depth of the teachings and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. We go to the Sangha for guidance. May we all, with one accord, live the life of harmony in the spirit of oneness, free from the bondage of selfishness.
Even through myriads of kalpas, hard it is to hear such excellent and profound teachings. Now we are able to hear and receive them. Let us try to understand the Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu.
Namanda, namanda.
Please remain standing for Gatha, May Peace Prevail, found in the back portion of your brown service book. You may be seated. This morning's Dharma talk will be given by one of our temple members, Dr. Michael Jaffe.
Well, I'm very grateful. I feel very grateful to be back here in person at our Hongwanji temple to give today's talk. Today's Dharma talk will be part Dharma, part self-help, and all I like to hear myself speak. It's called the Dharma of Change. I want to start with an old joke about a person who walks into our Hongwanji and asks Reverend Bert, "I want peace. How do I get it?" And Bert exclaims, "First you must remove I, as that is the ego. Next you must remove want, as this is desire. And what is left is indeed peace." As we have talked about in these hallowed halls, Buddha taught over 2,500 years ago the three marks of existence: dukkha, or suffering, or dissatisfaction; anicca, or impermanence, in other words, change is inevitable; and anatta, or not self, which is a complicated one to understand. Today's talk will focus on the second mark, that of impermanence, or change. Things are constantly changing, and if you don't appreciate this, you will suffer because you are not in touch with the actual nature of reality. From thoughts, feelings, emotions, to people, places, and things, everything around us is always in a constant state of change. Personally, I equate this impermanence or change to the second law of thermodynamics. And Bert always likes when I throw in a little science. The second law of thermodynamics states that any spontaneously occurring process will always lead to an escalation in the entropy of the universe. In English, if I don't invest energy and time to clean up my room, it is just going to get messier and messier and messier. Apparently, I need to talk to my son about entropy. So everything in the universe is in a constant state of movement, whether it's thoughts and sensations or people and situations. Nothing can escape entropy, this law of physics. In Buddhist teachings, because everything is in a constant cycle of change, nothing in the world is able to bring us full satisfaction, but only short moments of temporary fulfillment. This leads to a constant state of what Buddhists call dukkha, or suffering. In other words, all the things that you think might bring you happiness provide only temporary satisfaction, leaving you constantly craving more. Let me give you an example. I bought my new iPhone X back in 2017. I was filled with joy, swiping my screen as they did away with the home button on the bottom of the phone. I showed it off to all my friends, I downloaded my favorite apps, and began using the cool new features. The excitement quickly wore off, however, once the phone demonstrated some glitching, and my iPhone settled into, well, just being my phone. Of course, Apple has you. And they came out with an even cooler 11 iPhone over a year later. Now the phone that brought me such joy and bragging rights at my office was a glitchy, outdated phone without the new super cool pastel colors and didn't have the 3-lens camera available on those later models. Even worse, using it reminded me what I did not have. What a bummer. Now, of course, I did hand down my glitchy phone to my daughter, Jenna, who still owns it today, and I already have a new outdated iPhone 12. Sorry, Jenna. Accepting change can be a frightening ordeal, and although it's around us all the time, it's usually uncomfortable when change occurs. For change, metaphorically, leaves the ground we stand on unsteady. If we try holding on to pleasurable feelings, experiences, or emotions, we quickly realize that this is an impossible task. So, we know change can become a major source of anxiety in our lives. It's the underlying uneasiness that drives our minds to create the idea of a permanent self that holds tightly to beliefs, thoughts, and emotions. If we deny or resist change, we will cause a significant amount of unnecessary suffering. What would Buddha say? It does not have to be this way. We don't need to resist change. We only need to let things be, let them go, ride the changes of our life like riding a stand-up paddleboard on Enchanted Lake. Change will happen whether you like it or not, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse. Once you understand and make peace with it, things become more workable. We stop resisting and instead learn just to go with it. Like the second law of thermodynamics describes the entire universe, we are only a transitory combination of the elements. The ultimate fate of our bodies and minds and other things in life is entropy. This can be a very heavy realization, but instead of feeling upset, we can use this concept to increase joy and peace in our lives. In Buddhism, there is a term, dependent origination. Buddhism teaches that everything that exists is dependent on something else. This applies to thoughts as well as objects, to the individual as well as the entire universe. Nothing exists independently. Everything is connected. Dependent origination developed into the concept of interdependence and the interconnectedness of all things in Buddhist thought. The idea that every action has a butterfly effect on every other being. I personally feel this is a very beautiful metaphor. The process of accepting the nature of change can be a useful tool when dealing with our thoughts and emotions. Realizing anger is a transient state of mind instead of completely losing it when you're upset. You can let it pass naturally and on its own accord. In fact, the old adage for us married folk is never go to bed angry or mad. I have mostly found that going to bed angry is often a good idea because you and your significant other often wake up in the morning realizing you were both arguing about something silly or trivial most of the time. If we understand change and impermanence, we will know our thoughts pass through our mind like the waves on Castle Beach and let them go rather than be ensnarled by them. As a clinician, I see people living with chronic pain as a disease. Their injury or disease process may be long gone, but their chronic pain remains. The pain is now a chronic disease that cannot be cured. How do I treat these patients? I instruct them to observe their pain from a place of acceptance and focus on what they can do so they can create a space where they don't feel like a victim or feel disabled. Guess what? By understanding the change in their health and letting go of how they used to feel, they actually start to feel better by accepting change. Being able to recognize change also is a liberating encounter when experiencing pleasure. Knowing that happiness and pleasurable feelings and sensations are based on changing conditions. You can be grateful for any moment you experience them. Spending time with those you care about will be even more special by acknowledging inevitable change, the fact that no one will be around forever. So we should appreciate every minute in their company. Change is around us all the time, and as I mentioned, can be liberating once you begin opening up and relaxing into it. A good practice is to try noticing change in our daily routines. Appointments come and go, as do feelings, thoughts, and experiences. So we should try not to be so wound up. I often quote to my wife when I see her becoming stressed over a situation, that great line from the movie Stripes, "Lighten up, Francis." Although this usually results in me getting the stink eye or sleeping on the couch. But I think we both get the picture. Probably what I should say is, this too shall pass. And that we should cherish every and each moment we have together. All right, every other moment. The bottom line is this: we don't need to run from difficult feelings, people, or situations. Change will happen on its own, and there's no need to run from it once it does. In fact, we can learn to find immense gratitude and joy through embracing change and appreciating the beauty found in life's ever-changing dance. Change what you can for the betterment of ourselves and those whom we touch by remembering we can simply go with the flow. One breath, one step, one day at a time. And see ourselves with acceptance where life takes us. Now, let's shift gears a bit into the self-help part of the talk. Change in our lives should not be accepted as only a passive reality. As people who are productive members of society, we should always be implementing change in our lives to improve who we are as people. Our continuous improvement requires energy input, or what we can call active change. Now, Newton's first law of motion, sorry, Bert, states that things cannot stop, start, or change direction all by themselves. It requires some force from the outside to cause such a change. Thus, what we put into our life is what we get out of it. So what can we do to fight the inertia and facilitate productive, positive change in our lives? In the book, How to Change, by Kathy Milkman, she reviews sociologic studies to develop strategies for making productive changes in our lives happen. The first thing to do in making change for the better is to set a goal and put it in writing. I have found in my many years of raising 3 children that if I don't write down my kids' schedule for school and their extracurricular activities, something will be overlooked. Usually it turns out to be little Susie's birthday party on Saturday when Dad was in charge of the kids. Mom had it written down in her calendar, but Dad forgot, and now Mom has to clean up the mess with Susie's mom before our son's birthday comes. After writing down our goals for change, we must then have the confidence in ourselves to get the job done. We need to look in the mirror each day and tell ourselves, you can do it. Never underestimate the power of the subconscious, people. If you look in the mirror with self-doubt, you will program your subconscious for failure. This is a real life hack. Research confirms the obvious. When we don't believe we have the capability to change, we don't make as much progress in changing. In Buddhism, self-doubt is one of the 5 hindrances of spiritual progress. Have you ever tried to meditate and doubt what you are doing is meaningful and worthwhile? If so, you will quickly start thinking about desires, become distracted and restless, and soon just give up rather than taking the time to examine your own mind. After writing down the change you want to make, you must then track your behavior to stay focused. A great example of keeping track is the ubiquitous diet. Now, there have been countless diet fads I have observed over the last 2 to 3 decades. Many of these diets are reviewed in the medical literature, and guess what? Not one of them is scientifically better than another. Whether the all-grapefruit diet, the all-you-can-eat diet, the flexitarian diet, the keto diet, the time-of-day diet, none of them prove to be better than another in the medical literature. Yet many of them work. You know why? Because what dieting really comes down to is paying attention to what you are putting in your mouth on a daily basis. It's the paying attention to what you eat that loses the weight, not the fancy way you do it. Many people have trouble getting started on a new change for the better in their lives. One just passed us, and that is setting a date, like New Year's, to start change, also called a fresh start. Use life events or a calendar as a starting point. It's often needed to jumpstart and focus our energy. Two other vehicles for change in our lives are the carrot and the stick method. Carrots for change is pairing change with activities you enjoy. For example, if getting to the gym treadmill is a change you want to make, but walking stationary in a gym is not your idea of bliss, what to do? Watch a Netflix show while you're using the treadmill. Might I suggest the Daredevil series on Netflix? All 3 seasons. Fabulous. Pairing difficult activities with enjoyable ones is called temptation bundling. Now, Buddhism is not big on the word temptation because it conjures up one of the 3 poisons, that of craving and desire. But if you're on a treadmill at the gym, I guarantee you Reverend Bert will cut you some slack. The stick method has you setting up commitment devices to punish you if you falter from your path of good choices. Commitment devices come in many forms, such as not keeping your word to friends whom you promised you would make a change, or so-called soft penalties, or to monetary penalties you have set, like taking money out of your retirement account comes to mind. Brother, you do not want the IRS to give you a hard penalty. Let's take a moment to discuss about self-control, which becomes the key obstacle to behavioral change. In Buddhism, we have the Eightfold Path to guide us in Buddhist living. One of these spokes is right effort. The Buddha taught that there are 4 awarenesses to right effort. Number 1, notice areas in your life where you realize you are tempted to participate in greedy anger or ignorant thoughts or behaviors. Number 2, notice unwholesome things that you think, speak, or do on a more frequent basis. These habits are your afflictions, or kleshas. Now, kleshas is a mental state that clouds the mind and manifests as unwholesome actions such as anger, jealousy, and desire. What I want to know is how kleshas is not a Yiddish word. Number 3 is notice when you tend to these actions or feelings, think about what triggers you or drives you to do so. Then try to hold off and not do them as much. Remember, right effort is not about trying to be perfect, but trying to be just a little better in acting in alignment with your intentions. 4th, notice areas in your life where you could try to build better habits and a stronger practice in being more generous, loving, and wise. I kind of would like to add a 5th element, and that would be when you do well, acknowledge and reward yourself. The point about making change towards the right effort is really about trying to be the best we can be. And we would all like to be that, right? In closing, I would like to quote the influential Zen Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who died just 8 days ago at the age of 95. The peace we seek cannot be our personal possession. We need to find an inner peace which makes it possible for us to become one of those who suffer and to do something to help our brothers and sisters, which is to say, ourselves. Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you, Mike. That was a very informational and inspiring Dharma talk. Oops, sorry. Okay, please rise for Gatha, Flying Free, which can be found in the back portion of your brown book. Please remain standing for the Nembutsu, and it can be found on page 104 in your brown book.
Good morning. I'm so glad to see so many of you today. Let's see. First of all, I want you to notice that we have a brand new altar cloth. See, you can't even remember the old one. You want me to drag it out? This was donated by the Buddhist women's group of this temple. As you know, the women's group no longer exists as a group, but we had some extra funds, and so we decided to go ahead and replace the old one. And Reverend pointed out to me that the old one we had was like a size small, and we have a large altar, so now we have the appropriate size. So, you know, you have to kind of remember what it looked like. So this will be our everyday cloth. And when we have special services, then we bring out the one that has a skirt, and you've seen those. We do that at least 6 times a year. So this will now be our everyday cloth. I do want to acknowledge some guests that we have today, and some people that were here last week, and we're glad to see you back. There's Andy and Amanda, and they're sitting in the second row. And next to them is Lorna and Doug Strand. Lorna was very instrumental in organizing the Martin Luther King Day drop-off here, when we collected goods for the food bank and the Mai movement. So welcome. And I have your banner back there, so don't forget it. Also, we have Sophie Lee. She's in the very back row. So when we're done, please stop by and say hello to them. And of course, we have Natasha and her son, and they're seated here. Natasha's been with us several times now. So welcome everybody, and welcome all the rest of you too. A few announcements. You know, the headquarters of the main temple, their office is again extended. They're closing because of the new COVID BA2. I mean, this thing is going to go on forever. But we'll continue to have live services as much as we can, and as long as we be careful about wearing masks and trying to distance, I think we'll be okay. Thank you, Mike, for a wonderful Dharma talk. That was very enlightening. Kind of matched the music and everything, you know. Did you plan it? And those are the two of my favorite music. For those of you that don't know, that second song that Gatha that we sang, Joy, who's sitting up front, was very instrumental. She plays, an oboe throughout.
Yeah, but I didn't play that recording, the one I'm in.
Ah, shucks. I wanted to hear the one that you did. But anyway, she does that part on one of the recordings. And thank you, Reverend, for running the service. And all of you that participated by being greeter and MC, thank you for stepping in, Cynthia. Okay. Next service will be on February, oh my gosh, it's February 6th. And at that time, our own member, Bob Nishita, that's sitting in the third row on this side, will be our guest speaker. And starting in February, those of you that are in Team A refreshment group, it's your turn to provide refreshments. We have refreshments after each service, and since we have the COVID ruling, it's like takeaway bags. So after we're done here, please help yourself to a bag, and if you don't want to stay and hang out and socialize, you're welcome to take it with you. Those of you that want to remain, you can do so. Make sure that you kind of watch yourself about that. Let's see. And February 13, that is our special service. It's a Dana Day and pet memorial service. So if you have pets that you want to remember, that's the day. And we have a guest speaker, Dr. Michael Chang. Okay, are there any other announcements? Otherwise, please go next door and have something to drink and eat. And we hope to see you again 1st of February. Of course, some of you leaving, yeah, going home. Yeah. Andy and Amanda live in Virginia, and they're just visiting. But they spent their 2 Sundays now with us. Nice. Thank you.